Hello everyone in our Race and Ethnic Relations class. My name is Deanna Santos, and the topic that I chose to share with you all is about the social and economic injustice of Filipino Americans in the United States. I thought this topic would be great for this class as we discuss about race and social justice in America. You may be thinking right now, Filipinos face social injustices in America? Yes, they did, and still are. You may not have heard these stories before because they weren't brought to attention in your history books or classes, but today I will share with you a piece of history that occurred in the 1960s and how Filipino Americans led social actions for greater equality and social justice in the United States. Filipinos are the largest Asian group in the state of California. They have been here for centuries. The U.S. entered into war against Spain and took possession of the Philippines. Once the U.S. colonized the Philippines, they promised that they would protect Filipinos' rights and liberties. With that, Filipinos were exempt from immigration restrictions, unlike other farm workers from Asia that came to the United States to work. In the 20s and 30s, 100,000 men arrived to America seeking for opportunities. Filipinos went into the West Coast working in agriculture of the United States following the crop cycle. Like many other workers of color, Filipino American agricultural workers throughout the U.S., from the plantations of Hawaii, California, and Alaska, have all experienced and worked in terrible conditions and received low wages. Filipinos arrived in the U.S. for a better opportunity, but because of their race, they faced discrimination as they worked in the agricultural fields. Even though Filipinos experienced harsh racial and economic hardships, the organization of strikes and unions improved farm workers' wages and working conditions. You may have probably heard about the United Farm Workers Movement and certainly the name Cesar Chavez. However, you may have not known about the Filipino farm workers in the vineyards of California's Central Valley that went on strike in Delano, California, demanding fair wages and labor conditions. This historic movement of 1965 lasted for more than 5 years and was led by Larry Leong, Philip Veracruz, and others that created an Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee, or AWOC. After successfully fighting for better living wages and working conditions in Washington State and Alaska, Larry Leong and other organizers helped organize farm workers across California, including his hometown Stockton. With his dedication to the labor movement, he went out to help the Filipino grape workers to strike against the Coachella Valley grape and Delano growers. The Manongs, or older brothers in Ilocano, that worked in the Delano fields experienced hardships such as racial discrimination, discriminatory laws, and exploitation. Filipinos were not allowed in hotels or bars where signs put up "No Filipinos Allowed." Discrimination against Filipinos raised tension in the 1930s, where Filipinos were restricted from basic rights such as voting rights, owning property, but the most unjust, the anti-miscegenation law, which banned interracial marriages. Filipino farm workers saved and sent their money back to the Philippines and even returned home to reunite with their loved ones. But back in the fields, the pay was not enough and working conditions were poor in the Filipino labor camps. Filipinos were fed up of being treated unfairly by their growers that they went on strike and demanded $1.40 per hour, plus 25 cents for every box of grapes harvested. These strikes led to violence between the growers and the farm workers. The growers, in response, shut down Filipinos' water, gas, and electricity in their labor camps. Some were even beaten by local law enforcement to end strikes. Weeks later, the Filipino farm workers needed more support and reached out to the Mexican workers that worked across the way in the fields of Delano. Growers did not integrate their workers, and so the Filipinos called them over to help get their voices heard. Larry Leong went and talked to Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta, who led the Mexican-American National Farm Workers Association, to join the Filipinos' strike. At first, Chavez was hesitant about it, but a few days later decided to join unions and finally formed the United Farm Workers Movement. For years, the leaders of this union and farm workers worked together in strength and fought for social and economic justice in the Delano grape strike. On July 29, 1970, after more than 5 years of striking and international boycott of table grapes, the growers agreed to sign the collective bargaining agreement that stated that farm workers will receive pay raise, health care benefits, personal protective equipment from pesticides, and improved working conditions. The Mexican-American laborers were given credit for the actions and strikes they took. When it was over, they favored local residents rather than migrant workers in the union hiring hall. The Filipinos' hard work of organizing the strikes and building a union with Cesar Chavez became invisible. Yet, with the determination and contributions of Larry Itliong and other leaders, helped farm workers not only in the west coast of California, but all over the United States. This is a piece of history that was rarely told, and it is important to emphasize the impact that this small group of Filipinos had made in the process. If it wasn't for the 1965 Delano grape strike standing up for the migrants' rights and fighting against abusive and unfair labor conditions, this United Farm Workers Union for Social and Economic Justice would not have motivated a nationwide movement against the system.